Hey guys! Oh, wait, I almost forgot. Hey guys! Last year I changed my backgrounds for Halloween, so of course I wanted to do it again this year, and I'm actually really excited about this year's Halloween look because back in the Girl World video, I think, I mentioned that I really liked the new Alice in Wonderland Disney Masquerade doll that was coming out, but I couldn't justify buying a doll for that price. So I thought a fun alternative to owning the doll would be to draw my character in the same outfit. Well, a sort of raspberry colored version anyway. But I like the way it turned out. But yeah, with that being said, a few weeks ago a comment asked if I thought the Charmed ones could survive in the Buffy universe and vice versa, and it got me thinking, what if they are in the same universe? Like, I've never really thought about it before, but the more I do, the more I realize that the clues might have been hiding in plain sight all along. I mean, Phoebe even mentions Buffy by name in the season 1 episode The Power of Two.
Great. Where's Buffy when you need her?
And I always assumed that just meant she'd watched the show. But what if Phoebe is actually familiar with Buffy in universe? I mean, they are sister shows after all, with Buffy originally premiering on March 10th, 1997, and Charmed following a year later on October 7th, 1998, and both shows airing on the WB network. And Charmed does reference Buffy a few times throughout the show's run, the first being during the season 1 episode The Power of Two, where Phoebe says,
Great. Where's Buffy when you need her?
The second being in the season 4 premiere, Charmed Again, where the background music in this episode is actually from the unaired Buffy pilot that played during this scene. And apparently Charmed also used this piece of music in a few episodes in season 5, although I haven't been able to find which ones yet. The third being in the season 4 episode Bite Me, when Leo says,
No, that's true. Vampires have been ostracized from the underworld for centuries. As far as I know, they're part of a whole different network now.
Which was a reference to Buffy having moved from the WB network to UPN. And the fourth was in the season 7 episode Little Box of Horrors, when Charmed references the Slayer lore.
Into each generation, a Slayer is born. One girl in all the world, a chosen one born with a
strength and skill to hunt the vampires.
When referring to the Guardians of Pandora's Box.
We're chosen beings, part of a magical lineage, one in which every generation a girl is born, meant to guard Pandora's box.
Which is pretty on the nose, but it does make you wonder, either they really like referencing their sister show, or maybe they were trying to tell us something. So today we're going to go through all the various hints and clues that I could find that they might be existing in the same universe. Number 1, the lore. Figured I'd start with this one since it seems to be the main reason most people believe the two universes are separate. So, we know that witches and vampires exist in both Buffy and Charmed, but because of the differences between the two, it's easy to believe that they're separate universes with a separate lore. For example, witches in Buffy don't seem to have active powers like telekinesis or stopping time, though Drusilla did seem to have some level of precognition, similar to premonitions in a way.
Drew, what is it, pet?
Yeah, it worries. Someone, an old enemy, is seeking help. Help to destroy our happy home.
But there have actually been a few witches in Charmed that didn't seem to have active powers themselves, such as Jana or Marcy, so it's definitely not unheard of. And like in Charmed, Buffy has indicated that magic can also be passed through a family line, like with Amy and her mom, or Tara and her mom, so it's very possible that it just depends on that particular witch and their families. I mean, like, I definitely wouldn't call Amy and her mom good witches, so maybe that's why they act more like the evil witches in Charmed than the good witches. And then there's the vampires. There's definitely more differences between the two shows' vampires than their witches, including the fact that the ones in Charmed don't seem to have the same vamp face that the ones in Buffy do, and the turning process is very different. I mean, in Buffy, you actually have to die first. And like I said before, it's easy to write those differences off as proof that the two are separate universes, but there actually could be an explanation for this. In Buffy, it's established that their vampires were created when the old ones, ancient demons who left their dimension to inhabit Earth, either retreated back to said dimension or interbred with humans, which weakened their powers over time and eventually came above ground. And in Charmed, it's established that vampires were thrown out of the underworld because they tried to overthrow the source. So not only could that help explain why vampires came above ground, but that could also help explain why the vampires of Charmed operate a bit differently than the vampires of Buffy. It might be because they're not directly descended from the old ones, the demons who bred with humans, but rather the vampire queens. So they're more pure in a way, I suppose. More human, if that makes sense. And it might help explain why when their sire, the queen, dies, they die with her. So, I don't know, but it's definitely something to think about because they really do share a lot of common traits. A vulnerability to garlic, holy objects, sunlight, stakes. Vampires in both shows seem to automatically gain supernatural strength and an innate fighting ability upon being changed, and the wiki does say that the vampires in Charmed lose all sense of self, which kind of sounds like losing your soul. And then there's Dracula. He could turn into a bat just like the vampires of Charmed.
I will see you soon.
And he didn't seem to have a vamp face either, so it could suggest that maybe he's more similar to the vampires of Charmed than Buffy. I mean, he also seemed to have that weird influence over people, which we also saw in Charmed, so, you know, maybe the vampires more native to Earth share certain abilities, and, you know, Dracula is over 500 years old, and the source that throughout the vampires ruled for about 500 years. Just saying. Maybe Dracula had something to do with the coup against the source, and he was like, yeah, no, all of you get out. Giles did say that.
Dig a bit in the history of this place, and you'll find a steady stream of fairly odd occurrences. I believe this whole area is a center of mystical energy. Things gravitate towards it that you might not find elsewhere.
Like vampires.
Like zombies, werewolves, incubi, succubi. Everything you've ever dreaded was under your bed, but told yourself couldn't be by the light of day. They're all real.
Which was also echoed in Charmed.
Fairy tales are not all fables, my dear. Some are recountings of ancient battles between good and evil. And they're as much a part of our heritage as anything in the Book of Shadows.
So yeah, personally I think there's a lot that could tie the two lores together and more similarities in the two shows than people might realize. Number 2. Location. Charmed takes place in San Francisco, California, and Buffy takes place in the fictional town of Sunnydale, California, which, according to series creator Joss Whedon, is located near the Santa Barbara area, making the two locations approximately 326 miles and about 5 hours apart from each other, according to Google Maps. So it's not unreasonable to believe two supernatural forces living within the same state might have crossed paths at some point, or, at the very least, been aware of each other's existence. Especially since Phoebe is the one that mentioned Buffy in The Power of Two, and like I said, I always just assumed that Phoebe had seen the show, but, you know, at that point in time, she was the sister that was most invested in their magical heritage and knew the Book of Shadows the best, so maybe Phoebe came across something about Slayers in the book and did her own research, and that's how she knew about Buffy? And if the two were connected, it would also help explain why there always seemed to be so much demonic activity in San Francisco. It's well established in Buffy that Sunnydale, California sits on a hellmouth.
I'm standing on the mouth of hell and it is going to swallow me whole.
But, as we talked about in the Buffy Easter eggs video, in the Season 7 Buffy episode Never Leave Me, Quentin walks in front of a map that is believed to be a map of hellmouths around the world, including the other hellmouth mentioned in Buffy in Cleveland, Ohio. But, if you look carefully at the California section of the map, the area that hellmouth covers would include San Francisco. So that would not only explain why there is so much demonic activity in that area, but also why the Warren line knew about the Nexus and claimed it for good. But it would also help explain why, as Fate the Winx pointed out, the Charmed ones seem to be attacked less at night, aka when Buffy, Angel, and company are usually out patrolling, and also why the Hellmouth in Buffy and the Underworld in Charmed look remarkably similar. It could very well be possible that there is an entire cave system that encompasses the area on the map, and might be part of the reason why the Charmed ones ended up being able to live a relatively demon-free existence within just a couple years of the Hellmouth being destroyed.
How do we know you're not going to come after us next?
We might, but probably not anytime soon. No, we're not powerful enough to challenge the Charmed ones. No demon who remains is safe for the Triad. You decimated the old guard, and we need time to rebuild.
Number 3, Wolfram and Hart. This kind of goes hand in hand with location, but another reason I think the universes could be connected is that in Angel, there is a powerful law firm called Wolfram and Hart, which also serves as a cover for evil supernatural forces to operate above ground and, quote, help spread oppression and evil. Which sounds a lot like what we saw in Charmed, like with the Brotherhood, the Power Brokers, when Cole and Phoebe ran the underworld for a bit. And guess who put him through law school? And it says on the Wolfram and Hart wiki that by 2004, they had offices in every major city of the world, including, wouldn't you know, San Francisco. Number 4, you're playing on my turf. So in this section, I thought it might be fun to go over a few plot lines that Buffy and Charmed did that not only seem to have some parallel thinking, but also came out around the same time. So it's like, And the first one is the government. In both shows, it's revealed that the government is aware of a supernatural presence in the world, and when they're not covering it up...
Told you Marissa wasn't after you. She'll be all right. She's gonna wake up with a hell of a headache, though.
Who are you?
Someone you owe now.
So? You want the usual story? Gang-related, PCP?
What you have in mind, the truth?
They're trying to use it to their own advantage.
I keep saying the word injected. What did they inject him with?
Human blood. They were just trying to find a way to combine it with the demon's blood to extract its powers.
Powers? Why?
To inject the serum back into people.
You, the Initiative, the boys at the Pentagon, you're all in way over your heads. Messing with primeval forces you have absolutely no comprehension of.
And you do.
I'm the Slayer. You're playing on my turf.
The next one I thought was a bit interesting was Whistler. In season 2 of Buffy, we meet Whistler, who is a demon who not only doesn't seem to be a threat to anyone, but actively undermines threats to the world at large. And Buffy even says that,
What are you, just some immortal demon sent down to even the score between good and evil?
Good guess.
which kind of sounds like maintaining the grand design, which is always mentioned in Charmed, at least in the later seasons, because they did that. But those frustrations aside, if you think about it, that's very interesting because not only is he a demon, but he also seems to have some level of foreknowledge because he knew about Akathla and Angel's involvement with it years before it even came to pass.
It wasn't supposed to go down like this. Nobody saw you coming. I figured this for Angel's big day, but I thought he was here to stop Akathla, not to bring him forth.
And he somehow knew that Buffy was a Slayer, even though the day he approaches Angel, he says,
I want you to see something. We'd have to leave now. You see, and then you tell me what you want to do.
So, I'm like, Dad, you want me to go to the dance in an outfit I've already worn? Why do you hate me?
So it's like, how did this guy know all that? It's never explained, and I think it's so intriguing, but what's even more intriguing is that this same actor appeared on Charmed during the whole Avatar thing, and guess what he was doing there? Actively working against another threat to the world. And even though he's playing a character named Lagan, not Whistler, in Charmed...
My name's Whistler.
There you go.
Thanks. Anyway, lately it is.
It's like... I mean, here we have another demon played by the same guy who's trying to do the same thing in this show, trying to save everyone from a potential threat. Okay. I was thinking about all this and I'm like, it's probably not the same thing because this guy does get killed by Leo, who's an elder, so pretty powerful, but still, didn't Buffy say Whistler was an immortal, so it obviously can't be the same person, but then I'm like, that was Buffy guessing. He didn't actually confirm or deny. And now I think about it, I really don't think he was immortal because every single being you see in Buffy has some weakness, no matter how invulnerable they seemed. Glory had a weakness, the First had a weakness, and they were like mega powerful, so if they could be defeated, I'm pretty sure Whistler could be defeated. And if you think about it, his character in Charmed was powerful enough to be Zanku's second in command, and he was able to be killed, yes, but that was by an elder who are very powerful themselves, or at least supposedly. They're pretty powerful when they're not being useless, let's put it that way. But point is, he wasn't just killed by some random, he was killed by what is supposedly a very powerful being in the Charmed universe. So I can't help but wonder if he was more powerful than the show gave him credit for. I don't know. Like I've said with almost every point, there's a lot of evidence to support and detract from them, but the fact that this guy appeared on both shows as a demon who was trying to stop a force that threatened everyone, it just makes you think. And while we're on the subject of the avatars, the next thing I thought that was kind of curious is Utopia. Now, I have to rely on the wiki for this one since I never really got into Angel, but apparently in season 3 of Angel, they introduced a character named Jasmine who wanted to create a world without conflict, and by doing so would strip humanity of their free will, which sounds a lot like what the avatars were trying to do in season 7 of Charmed. Create a utopia where they got to play God and decide who lived and who died. And if you stepped out of line, aka exercised free will, you were just erased. And even though the avatars mostly appeared in season 7 of Charmed, they actually made their first appearance in season 5, where Cole uses their powers to create an alternate reality. And what's even more intriguing about that is that these two plotlines did kind of air around the same time, with Jasmine appearing in season 3 of Angel and the avatars appearing in season 5 of Charmed. And something else I thought was pretty interesting about it is that Jasmine is described as having formerly been part of a collective of entities known as the Powers That Be, who were very powerful, kind of operated outside of good and evil, and have been around a long time. And that could all pretty much apply to the avatars too. I mean, they are at their strongest when they're working as a collective, and that would definitely explain why Jasmine admits that she's not as powerful as she was when she was a member of the Powers That Be. The avatars operate outside of good and evil, hence why they're feared by both sides, and they have also been shown to have been around a long time, as shown when, for example, Zanku has to go find and decipher some ancient cave drawings to figure out how to get rid of them, because he knew those ancient people faced the avatars and won. So, it's just, there is so much here that could really line up. I mean, it would just be so interesting if Jasmine was a former avatar and she kind of still held some of their ideals, but she had her own way of doing things, and maybe that's why it didn't work out too well for her. So, they're probably not connected, but it's still fun to speculate. Speaking of alternate realities, both Buffy and Charmed had episodes that showed an alternate reality where the protagonists were said to be mentally unstable because they believed they had supernatural powers. In the season 4 episode Brain Drain, the Source uses his powers to make Piper believe that she and her sisters aren't really witches in an effort to trick her into giving up their power.
Paige, that's ridiculous. We're sisters.
You don't have any sisters. You're an only child, Piper. You know that.
I'm gonna be so happy when I vanquish your sorry ass.
And in the season 6 Buffy episode Normal Again, the trio summon a demon that sticks Buffy with a needle, and she begins to hallucinate an alternate reality where she has been in a facility ever since she first started believing she was a Slayer.
Buffy's delusion is multi-layered. She believes she's some type of hero.
The Slayer.
The Slayer, right, but that's only one level. She's also created an intricate lattice work to support her primary delusion. In her mind, she's the central figure in a fantastic world beyond imagination.
There are a lot of similar elements to these two episodes, including that when a character died in this alternate reality, that was actually when they got better.
I have friends.
That's right. Last summer when you had a momentary awakening, it was them that pulled you back in.
You use it to explain things you can't accept, just like your best friend did before she got well. Prue?
Don't you dare talk about Prue.
You've never forgiven her for finally accepting that she wasn't a witch. You've convinced yourself that she's dead.
She is dead.
No, she's not. We released her 3 months ago.
And since both of these incidents took place in their mind and were caused by demonic interference, it's easy to assume that it was all in their head, but I can't help but wonder if, with all of the alternate dimensions and realities you learn about in both shows, if there happens to be one out there where magic and the supernatural don't actually exist and can only be accessed when incapacitated. Anyway, that's pretty much all I have for now. I know it wasn't the most in-depth video it could have been. There was a lot of info I wanted to add, but I was like, ooh, that's just gonna make it way too long. I'm gonna spend like 10 minutes on one section alone. It's gonna make the pacing awful, so I'll just include the things I feel like are the most relevant and then talk about the other stuff with you guys in the comments, because that is one of my favorite things about doing, well, videos in general, but especially theory videos, because I didn't really know anybody growing up besides my sister and I who watched these shows, so there wasn't really too many people to bounce those ideas off of, if that makes sense. So now, being an adult and making YouTube videos talking about this stuff, there are so many people to talk to who remember different things, who notice different things, and they share that. And that is just the greatest part to me, just being able to talk to you guys and talk to other people who watched and love these shows and see what they think of the info, what they might have to add, you know, things they notice that kind of make less sense. You know, it's just, I love it all. And I'm so glad that this YouTube channel has given me the opportunity to meet you guys, because you guys are awesome. But I have no idea how long this video is going to end up being, so I should probably stop rambling. But I just wanted to say that also, if you are in the path of any hurricanes, I hope you're staying safe and well, and that you and your loved ones are doing okay. That stuff's really scary, so yeah, I really hope you guys are okay. And as always, I hope you guys have a wonderful day or night wherever you are, and thank you guys so much. Bye!